Oh, hello. What's up, everybody? My name's Josh Herman. I'm the CCO of Gnomon, and today we're going to be doing some Gnomon art jam. If you've never joined an art jam before, we'll basically be making stuff for a couple hours, and that's basically it. Feel free to hang out, welcome, watch, ask questions about process, or maybe just use this as an accountability partner. Put us on in the background while you do some of your own work. Maybe that's good too. Today, Alex is running a little bit late today. He should be here later, but he's having some internet problems, which seems to be a common issue nowadays. But he should be joining us soon. You should be hearing music in the background. If that's too loud, please let me know and I'll turn it down. In the meantime, I'm going to open up my ZBrush real quick. I kind of got it over here. I might try some different orientations real fast and see what we like. I might move myself out of the way. I kind of like this one because it's the biggest screen and you'll actually get to see me more than anything else. But to do that, I'm going to move myself out of the way real quick and get back this. Put this on here. And again, my name is Josh Herman. If you got any questions, this one. Play with that later. Hope everybody's doing well. Turn it down, please. A bit loud. Thank you so much for the input. Let me turn that down. Let me know if it gets too loud. It seems always a little bit louder on my side than it is on everybody else's, so it's a little hard to gauge. Hello, hello. Let me know if that volume is working for y'all or if it's not. Somebody says you sent in your application but no reply yet. Email them again. Email them again and let's see. Get you a reply. This is the creature character that I worked on last stream and the stream before. I'm pretty happy with how this is starting to go. So this barbarian lizard man thing. I'm going to keep working on this, and I'm actually going to tie it into a couple other things that we've worked on before. I had sculpted this. I'm going to scale this down to maybe get a size relationship. A previous creature. So I kind of like this. It's like a potential idea. Let's see, I was sculpting before the stream. Kind of like this as a potential idea for like a companion or like maybe a mount or something that this creature character could ride on top of. So I thought that could be fun. There we go. There we go. Now they're all back. There it is. Maybe like this height. This needs to be colored. Aha. Something like this, maybe they could be in the same scene. And today I'm just going to keep sculpting. I think I'm going to be working on some of the costume here for the character on the right. And eventually I actually want to make a little companion for the character on the right. And then I also need to create a villain. So I'm going to slowly start illustrating or creating several characters or cast of this little story. So the main character I think is going to be this character here. But I've also been kind of sketching and working on stuff in the background, and a lot of the previous streams that could be interesting or things that we've made could work for, I guess, a villain of this character. So I'm going to go and open that up. I think this was one that I ended up changing quite a bit, but this dude actually looked a little creepier, kind of nude, even though he's wearing dress socks. But something like this could be interesting. I ended up using this as another character. But today we'll probably just work on this one here. If there are any questions where I'm working on it, as I'm working on it, please let me know and I'll be happy to answer. Miguel, very heavy metal. Yes, that's kind of the goal, I think, of this, is to kind of be a little bit metal, sort of sci-fi metal, heavy metal, sword and sorcery style. So yeah, I actually ended up taking this little head here. I get it probably on the perfect angle. You'll see that this is actually a boss head that I had sculpted in a previous stream. It's just squashed around and warped. Maybe not anymore, but formerly the bounty hunter known as Boss, to kind of be this little trophy. And I like being able to, what I like about doing this type of work is being able to also take this bits off. So this could be like an undergarment or something like that. And I like a lot of these lines that I had drawn on the character here were basically made by me looking at CrossFit tape. So people that work out in a lot of CrossFit or do CrossFit competitions, there's like this specific type of athletic tape, and they tape it in certain orientations to assist, I think, with like muscles in some way. I don't actually know what it does, but they've had some interesting shapes. So these little gray lines I like quite a bit, and we'll probably keep playing with that. But now I can kind of take this. I'll take off these little boots here. So getting into the beta ray build territory, so I'll probably need to take that out of there at some point. Maybe it's the face or the hammer or something like that, but we want to keep working on this. So yeah, if there are any questions, let me know today, and I'm happy to answer. And like I said, Alex should be here if his internet picks up, but he probably won't be here for at least the first hour. All right. So the head in the last stream, I had kind of come in here and also made a morph target, so I can open the mouth if I need to, and then bring it back up. There's better ways to do this, but for a very quick, just kind of proof of concept, is the mouth open? What does the mouth look like open and closed? Make sure the tongue fits in there. Make sure the teeth kind of collapse on themselves the right way. I'm just going to do it that way. And I'm probably mostly today going to be sculpting on the costume. So you can see that the head is a little bit further along than the costume, which is really, really sketchy. So I'm going to slowly disrobe them and start working on those pieces. Because the way that I did this, just so you know, is I basically have a nude sculpture here. We'll remove this hammer. He doesn't need to be carrying that around. I also made a sword that could like sit here. But I'm going to just start blocking this out. And the way that I had done it before was I made this body. And then with that, I duplicated the body and I just slowly inflated the whole object so it was right inside of the previous body. So that means that when I sculpt on it, just to give you an example, if I sculpt on it now, I can add geometry to wherever I need, right, which is a nice thing. And then this is the exact same thing. It's just another duplication, colored different direction, and it deflated the whole object so it goes inside, and then sculpting on the outside so that it pops out. That's really good. Which is a nice, easy way to work to make certain shapes and stuff like that. And then I did the same thing for these little boots as well. What if we put horns on his head? You could always put horns on his head. There's always the classic horn. Do this kind of a deal. Maybe we'll get there. With little spikes. I think at some point I'll do a little, probably more in the vein of what I just did, and maybe not in this color, but I color pick this. I can come in here, I'll make it like a little more desaturated and a little darker, and then if I do color pick, we'll probably get some stuff. So I could do some decoration of scales or patterns like this to do something different. And this is probably more the direction that it will end up going, more reptilian, maybe with some serrated patterns and horns like on it, but probably the direction it will go. Let's work on this costume. I'm going to hide these boots, and I think I'm going to start working. What do I want to start working on? If I work on the blue, here's my thought process right now. If I'm working on the blue, the gray will have to fit underneath it, and that means I might have to adjust the body. So my initial thought is actually kind of work inside out and basically start here and figure out what this part of the costume is exactly. But I might also kind of work on it simultaneously. Add a frill. See, there's so many things we could do. Here, I'll give you a quick frill. Oh, that's not it. That's not what we wanted. Done. I think if we colored that purple, we'd be done. That looks like a He-Man villain. Sort of looks like a merman or whatever. All right, let's just start working on this stuff. I'm going to use my damn standard brush to start cleaning this up. I'm going to just kind of bounce between this. I'm going to start creating tolerances on the objects or the thickness of these little straps. When I say tolerance, what that basically means is the actual thickness and how far it sticks off of the surface. So parts of this, if this is a strap or some sort of a thing that would assist in some way, it would be pretty tight to the body. So I can either sculpt this all as one object, or I could start breaking it up into lots of different objects. I'll probably eventually do it as lots of separate straps because I'll get better fidelity on what it actually looks like. But for quick shape development and rhythm development and making sure that everything kind of flows somewhat nicely, I will sculpt it in ZBrush just a little bit longer, just like as one object, to know where all that's going to be. So there's going to be a lot of finessing on this character today. So if there's any questions in the chat, they can be about Gnomon, they can be about careers, they can be about portfolios, they can be about things I recently watched. Whatever is interesting to you, I'm happy to chat about, and let me know if you all have any questions or anything at all. I like this little buckle I accidentally made. Because at some point these things have to join, and so there's got to be some sort of a shape. Right now what I'm really lacking in this design as a whole is like some sort of repetitive shape or some sort of a callback that I can keep looking at. I just don't have that right now. So I'm going to look for that, and this little thing I just made on accident just here, kind of like that. So we're going to keep running with that. What would it be? I don't know. But maybe it's where everything joins in or something. Could also be a good opportunity for me to create some different color breakups, meaning so I could, slightly color this area differently. And even just starting to add that, what it will do is give me yet another element to play with. I don't necessarily want to make it super busy. That is a concern for me because the design could already get busy if I start adding buckles and straps and all these other colors around. You're going to see really quickly it's going to be hard to see. So I don't want to do that. I do like adding a little bit of color variation here, or even it could just be in the illustration or final output of this or whatever that will be. It could just be material breakup. It could just be shinier, or it could be more matte than the rest of the thing. Somebody says veins. Veins on the gray part, like venom. That's interesting. All right. In case you didn't see, in our chat, Adam, one of our Gnomon reps, is here. So if you have any questions about classes, programs, curriculums, anything more related to Gnomon itself as a school, feel free to ask, and either myself can answer or Adam can answer in the chat. So it's like these areas, like I think at a distance, and I think this is why sculpting is really interesting, but at a distance I think this is all working pretty good. I kind of like it being darker, but up close you can see like how wobbly all this is, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. One thing I start looking for when I'm doing this is basically like the construction. So what's on top and what's on bottom. You can see that the brush that I'm using kind of naturally does that a little bit. But I want to make sure that it's all consistent and making sense. Question from the chat, which is how soon will the campus reopen? As soon as possibly can. We're following mandates and protocols and regulations for our creditor and the state and federal. So there's a lot of things that we have to kind of deal with, but I would be stay tuned to our socials or our website, and we should be able to give you answers hopefully soon. I can tell you the answer to that is just as soon as we possibly can. I know that's not a great answer for everybody, but it is the most honest answer we can give, because we're still having to deal with all that other stuff. Thinking of signing up for the advanced ZBrush classes yourself? Yeah, that's a fantastic class. I think Adam, who was the Gnomon rep in the chat, took that class I think last term or the term before. He said he got a ton of information, and it was really, really helpful for him. H the Bald says they already took zoological drawing with Andrea. She's fantastic, but she's awesome. She is. One little tip, if you guys like to use the clay buildup brush or the clay tubes brush, when you use that brush, you'll see that it has this really kind of repetitive pattern, this stacking pattern to that. I actually like that quite a bit, but if for some reason you don't like that, you can go into stroke, you can go to modifiers, and there's this roll distance button right here. If you just crank this roll distance up to literally anything over the number 1, it can be 1.111100001, it will no longer create that stair-stepping pattern. So you play around with that, and it can maybe help you out a little bit, especially for stuff like this where I want to make like lines or stripes, but I don't want to have that pattern in between. Really helpful for that. I don't know if I like that dark patch that I made, so I'm going to come back in here. I'm just going to make it this color again. Kind of like how this little blue is sticking out. It wasn't intentional when I did it. I think it just happened, but it's making me think like, could there be, this is very like game, right? Like big shoulder pads kind of a situation. I don't know if I really like that look. I think I like something like this more. Is Jared still teaching the advanced ZBrush class? I think you're asking about creature sculpting. I think is the class that Jared Krzyzewski teaches. But if you're talking about the advanced digital sculpting class, that would be with Paul Gabry from ZBrush or Pixelogic. He teaches that. Yeah, Adam was just talking about all. You can see in the chat, he's talking about all the stuff he learned from Paul, stuff that I still need to pick up on. I'm not super adept in the Z modeler and hard surface workflows. I had Paul on the stream earlier in the year, and he showed me some stuff, and I've been playing around with it, and it seems amazing. Like no questions asked. But nothing. I haven't gotten too deep into it yet. Somebody, Tom Peroni from YouTube says, "Hey, I've done a backpack in ZBrush. Do you think retopology is obligatory to texture it to use as a prop in a render? I'm a 3D student in a rush, so I prefer to save the time if possible. If it's just a background thing in a render, like almost like an illustration or something that's never going to be interacted with, and you have no plans on showing that topology to anybody, make it an object. Don't worry about it. I don't think anybody's really going to care, to be honest with you, especially for background. It also depends on the position. If you're applying, what you're using this for. If you're going to use that as part of a portfolio to apply for like a prop position, maybe you should retopologize it. But if you're just doing it as like a thing that's in a thing, a prop that's in an environment that you made, then yeah, don't worry about it. It's my opinion though. So, all right, I'm getting kind of into the flow on this. So if you don't hear me talking for a little bit, enjoy the music. Sometimes you'll see my head spin around like this, which is very much like a dog or an owl. And that means I'm really just trying to align my stroke with my pen. Here, and maybe let's like have it flare out as it comes underneath this. Just got a Facebook message from somebody saying they see me, Brian Wynia. Brian was on the stream several weeks ago. We're sculpting some leprechauns, so that obviously was on St. Patty's Day. So go check out that stream if you're interested in that. We have all of our streams on YouTube. So if you want to watch any previous art jams, any previous events, any previous info sessions, they're all there on YouTube. So go check those out. Also, if you're looking for anything closed captioned, we have that available on our Facebook page. Here. So now I'm just kind of starting to formalize these shapes. I probably will eventually take this arm off just so I can focus on it, or that's really going to happen to every part of this character, honestly. But we'll get there. I'm going to save this, as you always do, 20 minutes in. I haven't saved. That's a big no-no. So always be saving. Great. Good morning. Good afternoon. Over here, I don't know where you're at, Mr. Odd Inc., but we are in Los Angeles, or at least I'm in Los Angeles. Where's everybody from today? Somebody's asking how to learn good human anatomy. You mean what's most important in it? Well, I think I'm able to come up with a name, name. Well, I think that especially if you're going to communicate with artists, shapes. Connection issues. Test over here. Flow. Slovenia, Cyprus, Netherlands, Brazil, Germany, Angeles, Philippines. Nice. I don't know if you would see me. See right now, my internet says it's coming out. I don't believe it. India. From India. The stream is lagging. All right. Well, I think my internet is slowly coming back or dying. Sorry, y'all. I'm just doing the old internet speed test here. Yeah, it should be fine. All right, that should be a little bit better. All right, somebody was asking if I can repeat their question or the answer to their question. Oh, so many answers. Hang on, sorry. The question was how to learn good human anatomy, I believe. Nope, that's a different one. Let's see, the question. Your biggest challenge is to keep the details while reconstructing the geometry either by Dynamesh or ZBrush, hence the question, what is my approach for projecting details? Aha, I see. All right. What is my approach for projecting details? That's a really good question. What I like to do is, it's pretty straightforward, but like for something like this, this was projected down to a ZBrush mesh. You can see that here. All right, so it's got more nice and clean topology. It came from something that was not like that. But all I do is basically sculpt up to whatever definition that you want. Make sure that that can be Dynamesh or whatever you want. Then duplicate that subtool so you have a separate one. And so you're working on two. Then at that point, you want to take the one that you want to have new details and one that's old details. On the one that's new details, ZBrush it, whatever reproject, whatever retopologize in Maya or TopoGun or whatever. As soon as you're done with that, you'd have two, right? One that's really low res but matches the forms of one that's higher res that has bad topology. You want to subdivide the version that has the low topology up to the same amount or close of polygons as the original sculpt was. At that point, you can project your details, and it will match one-to-one because it's the same level of actual information to be projected. If you do it earlier or later, it won't have that much. To stop little pieces and stalagmites and stalactites exploding off of the model, sometimes you'll see that happen. You can lower your projection settings, and that will help. But the thing that I would actually do is go step by step up the projection, up your subdivision level. So project at level 1, project at level 2, project at level 3, all the way till you're at the very top. And do that, and you should be able to get better details rather than just the straight one-to-one Dynamesh attempt to reproject and do that. It seems to work a little bit better. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, I'm going to load this back up. This is the previous sculpt, so you're going to see some things change. I like to have both of these open at the same time, so this way I can see before and after. You're not going to see a lot of changes because this previous model is wearing all this garments and stuff on top. All right, so now you'll see the back and forth, and you're going to see some stuff change around. So this is for me to actually evaluate and critique my own work, so I can say which one I like more. Let me remove this hammer from this one. Okay, and again, this is for me to kind of like get in here and say, do I like this or not? And I can tell you that at a distance, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll zoom in and I'm looking at like a specific area and like toggling, and then I'll look back at the whole character and I'll toggle. I'm actually right now using the stream preview window, which is a smaller window, kind of like a navigator in Photoshop, so I can understand if it's working. And the thing that I'm noticing right now is I'm trying not to change the overall shapes. And I have created this little divot here in the original one, which is not here. So I'm going to just basically try to make sure I keep it a little closer. And really what I'm doing at this point is I'm just refining the forms and refining the shapes. Sketches are great. You can get the point across, but if you don't know what it actually is, it's really hard to add more detail. And so that's what I'm trying to do right now is I have a sketch of what these gray lines are, but I don't actually know what they are. So I'm just coming in here, refining some details and saying, what are you? Are you cloth? Are you leather? Are you some sci-fi material? How tight are you to the body? Are you suctioned to the body? Are you being worn on the body? Are you part of the body? Are you, all that kind of fun stuff? And if along the way maybe there's some fun shapes or themes that I can create, then I'll do that along the way as well. Yeah, somebody's saying from Twitch as well, reproject in steps, lower to higher is definitely the way to go. If you just start at the high and you try to reproject in one shot, it's usually a recipe to either crash your computer or have a bad result and not really have a way to fix it. The advantage of what you can do if you go up slowly is you can also create a morph target along the way, or several morph targets. And what those do is they basically give you some steps along the way that you can use as like what's the right word? Fail safes. So if one of your projections ends up really bad, you can go back and use morph targets to fix it. So there's going to be a lot of cleanup today, but this is an important part of the process. We get a lot of questions on the stream about time. How much time does it take you to make something? How much time will it take you to finish this character? How much time does it take you to model Iron Man? How much time does it you get on a big project? All those kind of questions. And they're all caveats, and I think this is the important part of the process that most people don't know about. Meaning, I can do this sketch that you see here in 3 to 6 hours, and that's enough to communicate to myself or to somebody else that what the idea is, but it's not enough to really be done. And people don't always notice or know that. It's not enough to just finish it, because it just needs a little bit more work. Well, in this case, a lot more work. Thinking about putting texture on some of these. So if I were to put texture, what direction would said texture go? Did I already do the topology of my model? I did not. So this was just a very simple base mesh that I've been sculpting on. This I did do a little bit. Oh, that's the same base mesh. This one I did do, but it's just z-remeshed. So it's functioning, but it's not crazy high fidelity or production quality. I kind of like this texture though. I don't know how y'all feel about that. I think it's a little deep. It's like an interesting padded leather. I could try to bring this up a little bit. But basically, add another level of fidelity to the sketch when I do this. Somebody's saying they use the freeze method. Freeze is solid. I've had good success with it, but I've also had a lot of bad success with it. So I kind of just revert to the older school style for me, but they all work. That's the cool thing about 3D and ZBrush and all these programs is, you know, there's not necessarily always a right way to do it or a wrong way. So here I'm trying to decipher what the shape could be. This part will probably be the longest part of my sketch exploration because I'm actually figuring out, is there patterns on this? Are there not patterns on this? What's the thickness of this? Should there be, you know, when a strap goes underneath a strap, should it be have a connection or construction point at some time, right? Should it have shapes like this? Is it all fabric? Is there going to be other materials in it? So all this is actually really important for me, more as the artist making it. It's more important for me to figure it out than it is to be good at like making the shapes right now. It's just like resolving it. I kind of like that this circle's coming in because I added in the hammer here, there's quite a bit of circles. I'll turn the dark color off so you can kind of see it. There's quite a bit of circles here. So just the idea of maybe integrating a couple circles into the costume itself might be a nice addition. Adam's asking me what classes I teach at Gnomon. I teach one class at Gnomon right now, and that is our overview of visual effects and games class. It's essentially the class that all first-term students will take, which is to give them an insight into what the industry is. So we talk about the history of games, history of film, history of practical effects, jobs that exist in the industry, what all the major steps in the pipeline are, what those jobs do, how they contribute, and then also kind of have some fun with a lot of the history stuff as well. It's a fun class, though. I really enjoyed teaching it. Had a lot of people from the stream actually in the class. Cool. That's interesting. So the interesting thing about adding this little pattern on this is that now I can kind of dictate what the flow of the design is just by that. So you can see the difference, a little bit of the difference of how these lines are going kind of inward. Whereas if I just change them and make them go more straight up, it does change that look a little bit. And so I like it this way more. Say that there's always a 45-degree line on this. We just made that rule up. It's my world. I can make whatever rules I want. Right. Kind of like this. Now the question is, again, this is part of the rules that I'm creating for myself. I'm saying that maybe there's a little connection point where this goes. Is that going to be on this piece, or is it going to be on the strap side? On this side, it needs to be raised in some kind of way so that it can be inserted in there. Is that important? Do I need that? Yet to be determined. in areas like this, which are very non-defined, right? I don't really know what's happening here. I start to look for design lines. And so I know that I want this to kind of continue. And so that's where I'm just going to add in a line. Rather than leave it ambiguous, I'm going to find a reason for it to have a shape. This is so not lo-fi. I think I was supposed to be on a lo-fi one, but oh, this is synthwave. Okay, we're good. One Alex F1, how's it going? Josh, it's going well. Thank you, Alex, for asking. How are you doing? So my main goal for this, as you're probably starting to see, is if there's a line that is nondescript or doesn't really make sense or is just kind of meh, I'll take it and change it. So this is before and this is after. So you'll see I'm intentionally creating a line that's kind of going all the way up here, all the way down here. As before, that kind of was there, but it wasn't as clear as what I'm doing now. And this is still a sketch. I think that's important to say, is that this is still a sketch. This is 45-degree angles. It could go this way or the other way. So I'm going to try this one. Okay. The other way. Doesn't matter. Do you make straps and similar elements later from scratch or keep polishing the sketch so it's projectable to the final mesh? I would make straps for this. Just so I could keep the quality of them really high and what all these individual elements are. Like I would imagine that this would be a new element. This would probably be its own strap. This would probably be its own strap. This will probably be its own strap. But right now it's like a sketch to know what the size and shape and orientation and design of those are before you can really get to that space. I feel like one extra level with the circle theme. Just make it a real circle rather than like an ambiguous circle. Can I make your first stylized sculpt in ZBrush? Stylized work is really difficult. Huge amount of respect for people who do stylized work. It is not easy. I wonder why we don't have an official Discord channel. That is a great question. Comment. Definitely something we've talked about. This one go. I feel like this is like too in line. So we're gonna go the other way. Do I plan to animate it? Or no, I do not plan to animate it. Animation is definitely low on the list of my strengths. So this will very likely be a illustration, a model, a posed something, keyframe, maybe a 3D print. I like this little thickness it's created. Now knowing that these should all be thinner, I'm going to go ahead and just make another little shape back here. Let's put another circle. Why not? form up some of this shape here. Let's say it kind of makes this thing. There's all these weird lines back here, which clearly need to be straps of some kind. Am I using a display tablet? No, I'm using a Wacom Intuos 5. I personally don't use Cintiqs for sculpting. They just have never really worked for me. I don't know if I love this texture on that. I'm just imagining all of these now having texture. Really quickly. I'm gonna like that. Especially if the skin has texture. At least it'll be a theme. Maybe there's multiple types of straps. Let's all get around that. What's up, Josh? Hello, how are you doing? Good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. I kind of like the idea that all this, under this person's costume, it should be kind of hidden. It's like, it's here, but I'm not wanting it to be like the main element. So even though that it's potentially, you will never see this in like the final illustration or the final design or the 3D print. But I kind of always envision making these characters, or when I make characters like this, have accessories or layers of detail or layers of costume. It's like making an action figure. You're making your own action figure, and this is like action hero poncho you come with, and you can put it on, and you might leave it on most of the time, but maybe you won't. For digital drawings, is it worth getting an iPad and Procreate, or are you still able to make decent things with an Intuos and Photoshop? I mean, I think there's no question mark that Intuos and Photoshop have been working for like well over a decade for many people. So I don't think that Procreate is a mandatory thing, or an iPad is a mandatory thing by any means. I think it's more about what you feel comfortable with, how mobile you want to be. I think that's honestly probably the biggest appeal of Procreate for most people, is that you can take it anywhere, and that the feel of the brushes is pretty good. I like Procreate. I've used it quite a bit. I know some people who have been doing a lot of their work in Procreate, but I don't think that means that it's really like to kill Photoshop. Sure. Hope you're doing well. Hope your classes are going well. Are there certain features that Procreate has that Photoshop doesn't have yet? Is that what you're saying? Is this my own character? Yeah. For them, though. If anybody wants to contribute, put their name in the hat. Dad. But if you want to put it there, let me know. The stream is really laggy and freezing. Weird sounds. It might be the music. Let me change my internet. Oh, my internet is going out again. Sorry, everybody. My internet seems to be going up and down today. I'm sure it will come back. We'll give it a minute. Somehow I have now created another person on my stream. Oh. That's what it was. Sorry, the internet is bad right now. Seems fine now. Should be fine. All right. Let me know if there's problems again. I appreciate the help there. All right. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, names. If anybody wants to throw a name in the hat for what the name of this character could be, let me know. Or just type it. If you think you've got a really good one, you don't want to let anybody know what it is, you can message me on Instagram. Keep it a secret. In case you're just joining, we got a bunch more people here than there were in the very beginning. My name is Josh Herman. I'm the CCO here at Gnomon, and we're doing Art Jam today. So basically, I'm just making this character here for the next, where is it? This character here for the next couple hours. We got about 2 hours left in the stream, depending on Alex's internet. Seems like an internet day. He might be here later today as well. But if not, it'll just be me making this character. So you're more than welcome to ask any questions, ask for advice, ask anything. We also have a Gnomon rep here in the chat. So if you have questions about classes or our admissions process or anything like that, we're happy to answer those questions. Do I need a portfolio to get into Gnomon? Ooh, so yes, you do. If so, how do I make one and what do I need to put in it? That is a fantastic question, Mr. Clutch 61203. What do you need to put in it? Really what we're looking for in the portfolios is just generally showing your artistic abilities where they are right now. Like Adam is saying in the chat, definitely reach out to our admissions team right away. You do need a portfolio to apply, but our admissions process is actually quite different. So the way that our admissions process is really different is we consult with you, right? We actually provide free portfolio coaching and art mentoring before you apply. So if you have your portfolio and maybe you've got 1 pieces, maybe you've got 1,000 pieces, submit it, send it to us, and we'll give you that free advice. And then you can kind of keep moving afterwards, and they'll help you tell you what the steps would be to let you submit a successful portfolio. We actually recommend you do not cold apply. Do not cold apply because then you might not know what you need to improve on, and then it's a longer process. So myself, I'm a Gnomon graduate. I graduated almost over a decade ago at Gnomon. And I also went through that same process, and I had feedback that I had to follow when I applied. And by doing that and following the advice, I ended up getting in. So highly, highly recommended that you reach out to the admissions team. It looks like in Twitch there was a recent paper form, which is a contact card. You can get in touch with one of the advisors that way. And Adam also just tossed his email. Adam's one of our Gnomon reps, so if you want to speak directly with one person and are a little worried about the admissions process, Adam can help you out there as well. All right. I'm kind of liking how this is going. It's also interesting. This layout is a very different layout. I feel like I'm probably way too close to your screen, but or to Like, I don't know if I should be this big. I'll go back to this one. Can you do the whole course online? No, you cannot. Currently, because of the pandemic, we are doing courses online, but that is a temporary thing while we figure out what our plans are, everybody's plans are to reopen. Eventually, we will be going back to campus, which we're all very excited about. And at that point, the full-time programs will only be available in person. Name something with G, like gasos. Gasos? Alpha Ray Bill. I definitely got to push this away from Beta Ray Bill at some point. Bill is one of my favorite characters, so I've always kind of wanted to do a version of him, and so this could definitely be seen as interpretation of that, which I'm okay with, but I do want to push it away from him a little bit. I'm going to turn this coloring off, I think. The reason I'm going to turn this coloring off is because it's kind of confusing as to what the two areas are. So I can just sculpt on it for now. Just deciding which color I want. We'll do the brighter one. In fact, we'll just do this one. And we'll switch to a different matte cap. I just use these same matte caps over and over. I like using them because they're kind of neutral, but they also give you like a nice flavor of what else is out there. Gasos, a G. You can see maybe a G. So I have this really nondescript form here. What I'm going to be doing is probably trying to figure out what this is. At this point in the process, I can or could basically take this thing and break it apart into lots of little pieces. So I could break the chest piece off, I could break the arms off, and that would allow me to have a little bit more geometry in that area than I already do, which is great for defining the things. But right now, maybe I want something that kind of comes like this, and then I don't have that ability, or cover up the abdomen with a shape of some kind. I don't think I'm going to do those shapes. That's the most interesting of the shapes was that one, but he wouldn't be able to move his arms forward to do this. It's a problem. So, something to be aware of. What I'm doing is I'm really just kind of pushing and pulling. I'm not adding too much geometry of any. I'm just using the Damien standard brush here, and what I'm doing with that is I'm holding down Alt to create peaks, and I'm using it normally to create valleys. Looks like my internet connection may have gone out again. There we go. One of those days, everybody. Just one of those days. We need to change. This has some, it's not working for us. Fantasy. What? Turn it up a little bit. We're gonna have some beats, some fantasy music right now. Let's see. I actually think that music is really important when you're working. All right. So you can kind of see the before and after of what we've done to create a theme, create a style, create a consistent shape language. That's kind of the goal of what this has been so far. Now we're going to focus on this area. Once we get the chest and the shoulders kind of in that zone of, you know, this is what the shape language of this character is going to be, I think it will actually, the rest of it will go pretty quickly. I might add one more subdivision level. I'm not super happy about that, but let's see. Again, this actual section might be completely lost. We're in the final parts of the design, so I'm not going to spend too much time figuring it out. That's not true, I will. But I don't want to spend an excessive amount of time. Right. Let's put this in here, start figuring out what some of this is. Now, the thing I also start looking at, especially with thicker hard surface pieces, is there's no way that this intersection works on this character because it would just be them wearing metal of some kind and like no padding, no anything. So it's like you need to find a way for these things to feel like they actually can sit on a person or a thing and not be really awkward. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't make sense. Gee, Let me know if there's any other questions or even anybody else got names for this character. What their profession would be, maybe. That's a good place to start. This is like the royalty-free version of Inception. It's music. Ooh, I like how that kind of went down to the thing below it, though. That was not intentional. But those little negative spaces can add quite a bit, so I like that. This is also why I have the other one there all the time, so that I can come back, like I was saying, be like, do I like this or do I not like this? Does it affect the design? Does it not affect the design? If it does affect the design, is it a positive influence or not? I think that's a positive influence right now. How clear is your idea of a character before you begin sculpting? Kraskar from Twitch asked that. Good question. It depends. If it is a character for a production, usually I'll have a pretty good idea. If I'm making something up from scratch, sometimes it's just off the top of my head, or it's a general idea, or I want to make a blank today, and that's kind of where it ends up going. This one was kind of that. I knew I wanted to do. I think it actually started with basically making a muscular body and wanting to make sort of a superhero-y vibe, He-Man classic proportions. And so that's kind of where it started. There's a lot of intricacies in this that I do not think really make sense, but I will figure those out later. It's where you can push parts of the design. Does it make sense to have this collar up so high? You might stab himself in the neck. It's a concern. It's also kind of cool. But again, it's going to have this poncho on. So if this poncho is on, what does that mean? How about this little piece? Let's really go there. Maybe that's okay. Because then it's like there's this little thing sticking up under the poncho. Like, ooh. It's an ordinary poncho. It's just a game for me to say that word as many times as I possibly can. Gando. Sounds like Gandalf. Or Ganon. It's very Ganondorf. Gandalf. Superhero. I guess that two doesn't. This would have to sit on top. It's a bigger silhouette that we want. I am currently working on my portfolio to apply for the fall semester. I was wondering if it's okay if it doesn't contain all the pieces advised. I can't give you that feedback because that's kind of the advisor's work is to do that. So I don't know. I don't know what was in your portfolio or what they advised you. So my general recommendation is to do everything that they've advised you to, because there's probably a reason for that. But I don't. It's hard to know based on your situation. Somebody's saying, I was just curious if within the character artist field, if there is any specialization, because certain artists have stronger skill sets than others. Do these people grow into these? Great question. I don't know if I can show this. Here's the question. Really good question. There are specialties, absolutely, and there are certain jobs or even certain companies which those specialties apply to more so than others. For example, if you were working at Bungie has done a lot of hard surface characters, right? So they do some human characters, they do some alien characters, they do some a lot of hard surface characters, similar with like Doom, right? At id has been making a lot of demons and then a lot of hard surface stuff, and then very little normal human stuff in between. So, the question about like certain skill sets, often those, if you have a skill set like that, you're being hired for that skill set, right? That's part of it. So you're a great hard surface artist, you're a company that does great hard surface work. Whereas like sculpting, normal-ish clothes, okay, that's much more well suited to a place like Dog. Versus going for it and trying to do demons. Leo is just clothes, right? So sometimes on the job, right? This internet is dying. Additional things will come up. I don't know if you can even hear me anymore, but sometimes other things will come up, and is falling out. Yeah, the stream is having some issues today. For some reason, my internet is just not wanting to cooperate. So apologies for that. I wish I could control it. I truly do. But I cannot. When the stream comes back and is a little better, I will answer the question about how my workflow to separate the hard surface parts would be. I'll probably end up getting to some of that later in the stream. I also don't know if you can hear me anymore, so if things are sounding okay, looking okay, please let me know and I'll try to answer. You can hear me okay. That's good. Is the visuals just really low res? What happens to the stream? Is it laggy? Is it yeah, it's better. Oh boy. I said one of those days, huh? Right, I'm just gonna carve this real quick. The bitrate is low. The ZBrush window is laggy. Yeah, it says right now I have 5 out of 10 internet connection. Which isn't 10 out of 10. All right, now it's okay. All right, so the question was, how would I separate the hard surface parts? We will get to that in a minute, I think, just based on the time for the stream, because we've only been going for an hour. And I feel like I've separated out some of these parts pretty well as far as like from a visual sense, so I can start chopping them out. What I want to do, or what I will do, just to give you the TLDR in case you can't hang around, is basically I'll start isolating the sections. I'll duplicate the mesh. I'll start isolating the sections like this. I'll separate them, or I'll group split them, or I'll find a way to keep just that piece. And then I'll carve away at the outsides of that so it's just the central chunk, meaning like it would just be this area here or something like that, right? And then I would sculpt on that for a little while, or retopologize it, or Z-modeler, or bring in some other way to clean that piece up. That's my workflow with this. To give you the short non-demo version. I feel like there needs to be like some thing in here though. This is before, and this is after so far. So you can see what I'm kind of doing. It's just really defining exactly what everything is. Not the most engaging part, but it is one of the more important parts of the process. Not using any special tools here, just in case anybody's wondering. Just using the same basic brushes over and over. What's my favorite part of the process? The beginning. No, not the beginning, but like, I like getting to the point where I know what the final product will look like or could look like. So, to be honest, like this part of the process right now is fun, but I like getting to this part. Like, okay, at this point, I can kind of say more or less, even though I could improve it significantly. I know where this character is going to go. Right? I like getting to this part. Whereas going here, once I get into flow of the piece, it's like, okay, now I can see the next evolution of what this character could look like. But getting into the zone of like, all right, let's define all these pieces and figure out what the edges of all this looks like and the thickness and what's the design style and all that. That is probably one of my least favorite parts of the process to get into. I like sculpting detail, but you kind of have to get through this part before I get to that. So depends, but the beginning until I know where it's going is my favorite parts of the process. Still needs to be some work on this. I don't really know. These are just like, I'm just making shapes at this point. Like, I'm finding shapes that I think are interesting or could work or could be cool. But it's definitely not like the most unique ones I've ever made. Like the Shiflets in that. Oh, the Shiflet brothers. I love their work. It's so incredible. Yeah, they clearly don't like the end process either, though. If I had found a way to only have to sculpt like for the beginning of my process from a production standpoint, maybe that should be my goal. Then yeah, I would do that. That's all I would do. Yeah, their work is so loose. Simon Lee is another clay sculptor who also works similarly, where it's more loose, smaller size as well. He sculpts in a smaller size, I believe. He's been sculpting and posting stuff in ZBrush recently, which is awesome, and it looks the best stuff. My favorite thing about his stuff is that it looks. His digital stuff looks like his practical, analog, traditional stuff. It still has that looseness to it and that dynamic energy, which almost all of his pieces have. His poses are just so good. So I really dig it. All right, everybody, if you're just joining the stream, this is Gnomon Art Jam. We're about an hour and 15 minutes into the stream. We'll be continuing working on this character and basically polishing this all the way up to the end, to as long as I can finish the whole thing. So we're going to go through the rest of this costume and keep polishing it up. Speaking of, I'm going to save. Somebody from Kraskar from Twitch is saying, is 3D concept art not a thing? I imagined you would just make a lot of these and painting over lightly in Photoshop. My idea of how it works might be completely wrong. No, the 3D concept art is absolutely a thing, and that's a way you can do it, whether you're taking sculpts like this and painting over them, whether you're doing renderings in Keyshot or out of ZBrush or putting them into Blender or some other thing. Definitely a thing. But it just is a little slower than 2D to get to like the ideation side of it. Like, I'm not as strong in 2D, so my skill set is not as strong there, and so for somebody to quickly mock up a bunch of shapes like I'm doing now might be faster for somebody to do it in 2D, especially if they really have good strong 2D skills. I think this needs to connect. The advantage of 3D is that it's more realized, It's definitely a motivational video. I can tell you about. Oh, it's stopping now, but I was going to tell you about how to aspire to your dreams and just push hard for what you want. What's good music? This little shape I'm making in the middle, but I'm making a shape. I did have a bunch of circles. You can no longer do this in characters anymore. It's so Iron Man-y so quick, especially me. I'd struggle to make a central shape in things because it always kind of comes around back to that on accident. Somebody tells me that I just remade Iron Man in a different way. It'll be the first time. I like the line I just made because it gives a real reason for the separation. And Prince of Persia, the music, him. We haven't gendered them. They might not need to be. The circle in the middle of the chest. Oh yeah, that's true. Are they going to be a villain, hero, or anti-hero? Alex F1 asked that. Alex, what do you think? What do you think there would be? What do you guys think? The rest of chat, what do y'all think? Hero, anti-hero. Tell you my answer after we get some answers. Oh, we're back to the motivational speech music. Alex F1 says anti-hero. I can get into that. Villain's Guard. Ooh, I didn't expect that one. I dig that. Taika Waititi comic relief character. Yeah, I could see that. Absolutely. I'll give you the full package. So you can make an educated assessment. Villain. Let me come over here. The full look while I work on that. Stay there. Great. Warrior from a tribe of many like him. Anti-hero turned full-on hero. I think that's like the reluctant hero. That's what you're talking about. The reluctant hero is actually what my thought with this character would be. I have many favorites, many reluctant heroes that I like, but the Hound is probably one of my favorites from Game of Thrones. Let's get this out of here. We're definitely pulling in some Jack Kirby, which I have no problems with. No issues. Now see, this is when I'm like, it'll be so fast. It'll be so easy once I do this. Just got to do the rest of it. But then there's like the areas like this, which are completely devoid of any real substance from the design standpoint. So I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time, figuring out what that is exactly. So that's gonna be a minute or two for sure. Yes, badass with a soft spot, indeed. That's the thing. Okay. Use this as a starting point. We're going to make a little shape there. And we're going to support that shape with some structure. Okay. Great. We'll do some sort of a belty thing maybe. Like some way that this area here needs to connect in some way, otherwise it looks weird. Have I settled on a name or a backstory? I have not settled on a name. I was asking the chat if they happen to have any names for this character. And I only got a couple, I think one suggestion, two suggestions. So if you have a suggestion, or anybody else in the chat has a suggestion, toss them out there. Last time we did names, there was a couple of really good ones that were pretty good in the, was when we did that like a really saggy skin character. Hope to find a name. I'm quite bad at names. Very bad at making names. I don't want to do this because that just makes it look like a belt. So I'm trying to find a way to bridge this. Different. Gnomon Akem. Not bad. Oh, we forgot his hammer. Its hammer. Their hammer. Let's get that back. Definitely gonna have that. Put them over here now. So there's stuff. Stay there. Okay, good job. Big fan of the hammer myself. It's definitely one of the bigger problems in the relation to the other character that it resembles the most. So that's definitely something I'm pretty cognizant of right now, that I don't want it to necessarily tie into that too much, but I feel like I'm on a train that's going in that direction and it's a little hard to stop right now. So let's see how I adjust that at some point. This work requires a lot of time sitting. Does it affect the body and posture over time? Of course it does. And how do you manage to maintain good posture and health? I am a constant mover. So if you've watched me on stream before, I'm always kind of doing this, like shift my posture quite a bit, shift the way that I sit, sometimes I cross my legs different ways, over the other, sometimes Indian style. None of that is for you, but the constant moving help. But comfortable chair, getting a good chair back, invest in a chair. Obviously, you will be sitting. You can stand desks if you like, just don't stand the whole time. That'll also create different types of problems. But just being active outside is actually the best outside of work hours. Sitting hours is the best thing for you. Inflated all this, and it created a really interesting pattern when I smooth it in some of these spots. So I'm going to use that for sure. All right. Got to figure out these legs. Got to figure out these little gauntlets here. The back, I can always focus on the back later. It's not as important, but generally I think like this area, we've dialed in pretty good. So now we're in this zone, working our way down. I'm just trying to figure out what exactly this is, because this could be like a thing where it's like just armor, right? Is it just armor and it's not like a full suit? This is what it would probably be if it was more of like a suit or armor, right? There'd be some other thing that would be in here, like as an underwear loincloth thing. Right, we could do that version. It's terribly bad. So this, or we could do this. I'm feeling like this is going to be easier to make sense of on the left. So I think I'm going to run with that. Again, we will have other stuff on top of it. And from a movement standpoint, like this previous version, it's not bad though too. Mix of the two. That never really makes sense. I don't like this actually. Oh, interesting. I like the idea of a name that's hard to hear because since it's such low hertz. It's interesting. I like that quite a bit actually. If this comes out, I can do the belt thing that I was kind of talking about. Elegorn. Elegorn's interesting. The belt thing is basically like this. Pushing this out just a little bit so it sticks off the surface. Not a ton. Assuming this is reptilian. I don't know how that would work. It's not necessarily like, doesn't need to wear a cup. It's a different shape. There's a lot of actresses get used to like having to make adjustments for the crotches of costumes. We don't have to specifically do that because he's an alien. A little thong-like though. The phone like that. I'm not in love with that. One of the most scrutinized areas of every costume is the crotch. So disappointing, but it's the truth. How does this put us in comparison? Okay, see, I mean, there's now you can kind of start to see the level of upgrade in the design itself, where it's like, oh, this is what it kind of looked like before. Especially if we turn this off, turn that off, and see that the amount of resolve or information is just a lot higher. I think a lot of people get confused with this because it's like, you should be adding more subdivision levels and adding more detail, but I don't think I've added any detail to any of these characters. To this character, this one I guess I did only because I needed to sculpt more detail on this specific subtool. This one I didn't. Start with Reptus the Smasher. Yeah, I like that one, yeah. The blue out armor looks more sci-fi, while the first outfit design shown on the left earlier looks more fantasy. Yes, that's kind of the goal, is like a sort of a kitchen sinky thing where it's, a mix of sci-fi with fantasy, all kind of in the same zone. So it's like, maybe this is a character who's been on a planet for a while and has been, living in the wilderness. So they've killed things to keep them warm, and they dress in a way that protects them, but they still have like their original attire somewhere else, or they still wear it or something. I don't know. It's kind of the goal, or the thought at least. Yeah, I love that's mixed with fantasy, personally. That was actually what I liked the most about Destiny. It's kind of that. Let's add some detail to these pieces. Let's put this color back on. Let's see, I've added this color. Now that I have, initially it was just very big airbrush strokes. So now that I have this, I can define what it is a little further, kind of like I did up here. So this is the line. This is the line. This is the line. Where's this going to go? Here, I guess. Trim that down. This has a weird little arc on it that kind of works. I don't know what that is. We introduced some forms up here that I have not integrated down here, so I need to do that. We also have these forms up here, which I've never really used anywhere else. It's just sort of like a stack of fabric. It's intense. Ooh, that's kind of an interesting shape. Interesting doesn't always mean good, but it was an interesting shape. So creating a more clear separation for that, I think, is going to be helpful. I now need to figure out what this airbrush up here is doing. Next step. After I figure out what this is doing. .45 degrees only, so I can go this way. I can go this way. It's just going to make horizontal lines. Generally, you don't want horizontal lines in your design. They create a very stagnant look. Especially if I'm going to stack them up like this, like I would likely feel like I should. I think the vertical lines are going to be much more successful. What is happening here is the real question. I don't actually know. Am I hyped for the Loki series? Absolutely. I totally want to watch Loki and the time traveling extravaganza that it will be with Owen Wilson. Wow. That was my Owen Wilson impression. Yeah, I'm super excited for it. A circle here. Remember I said I was looking for a circle. This could be a circle. I really want to add geo, but I could, and if I did, this is probably where it'd go. This tiny little circle in there. Let's see if I can make this work. Smooth circle. Okay, okay. Not bad. It resembles a circle. I can live with that. Half circle. Yeah, I'm super excited for it. I liked all the Marvel stuff in general, but I've liked the Disney Plus stuff. I really, really, really liked WandaVision. I thought that was just absolutely incredible. Falcon Winter Soldier was cool. It wasn't as groundbreaking or unique for me. But I liked it. I watched it all. I enjoyed it. I think it does interesting things in the universe. But WandaVision was really special. Alright, switch to another playlist. See, but now here's the problem. You start putting lines on everything. This is what I said earlier in the stream. You start doing this, now everything's got lines on it. And now it's like, I don't know where to look. My eyes don't know where to look. And that's kind of confusing for me. So I don't actually love all these lines that I put in here. So I might resort to some of them not being in it. If you haven't seen, you don't have Disney Plus, if you still want to see Loki, you gotta get it for Loki. And if you do, you might as well binge WandaVision, Mandalorian, and Falcon. Get that out of the way. And unsubscribe for however many years you want to unsubscribe for it, and then all back and then watch them again. It's the season 2s or whatever they end up doing. There's going to be more. I bet you there's going to be a Marvel show for the next 2 years. Every quarter there'll be a new Marvel show. Just getting posted now in the chat, but tomorrow we're going to be having a behind-the-scenes look at the Orville with J.V. Pike. I was going to be talking about one of the epic 8-minute space battles they did in the show. So if you're interested in the Orville, if you're interested in sci-fi, if you're interested in behind-the-scenes, definitely check that out. It should be a fun event to check out. So check it out on our socials. It'll be streaming anywhere where you're watching this right now. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch, it will be streaming at this exact location. So you should follow, like, subscribe, smash that subscribe button, I think is what people say. And you'll get notifications on it. All right, I'm kind of done with this little belt piece. Ooh. Let's see, we got a question from R. Sullivan on YouTube. They say, you saw in an art video where they said that there should be areas with a sculpt with lots of detail and some with not. I thought of it when you mentioned the lines. Yes, you are talking about areas of rest and areas of detail. Right now I have too much areas of detail. Right, that's kind of what the problem that I'm kind of illustrating or will show here is, like, especially if I turn this off, I probably have too many areas. Turn this off. We'll look at the eyeballs. Make the eyeballs the selection so that everything else is in color. You see, there's not really a place, and I'll do this on the same thing here. Select those eyes. Go like this. This one has a little bit more areas of rest to look at. It has these large chunks. It has the rhythmic shapes from the lines, but they're not really there as much. Whereas here, now I've got a lot of detail. I've got a lot of patterns, and frankly, it's a little hard to look at, which is a challenge that I'll have to overcome at some point. So ways that I could fix this, again, there will be things on top, right? When I do this, it actually does, even though this is low quality, meaning low subdivision level, that helps quite a bit for me, right? This is kind of maybe what I'm thinking with the final version, is just literally just covering it all up, which is totally fine, right? Whereas as soon as this is gone, you see more, and then as soon as this is gone, you see more, and there'll probably be more details. Other things I could do is just simplify these shapes. So, and maybe that's the solution for me, right? Rather than trying to make this, for example, this area here is a really complicated section and it's making unnecessary shapes. I could probably just come in here and say, like, get my H polish brush out. Right. Dial this in. It's okay to have all this detail. And that might be a little heavy, right? I might be able to find a way to tone it down and make it more of a pattern that would be like on cloth, right? Subtle striping on cloth versus something different. But I think I do need to tone down the amount of details I'm trying to put into this piece here. And maybe even some of these areas where it's like, maybe just this one. You know, that I don't like. Tone this down. Do you have to use tablets for 3D modeling? No, you do not. You can use a mouse if you'd like to. You can use a Cintiq or a display tablet if you'd like. But you can use a mouse for modeling, no problem. Sculpting is a different question, and the reason often people will say you need a tablet for sculpting is because of the pressure sensitivity. You can sculpt with a mouse. I have done it. I actually don't mind it. But it is a little more difficult, and you have a little bit less control when you're trying to do certain types of work. You have to spend a lot more time adjusting the intensity of your brush or whatever you are when you're sculpting than you would without, if you had a tablet on hand. And trying to create a general like outwards and up line, a V line for these kinds of things. V is traditionally a powerful shape. So creating different versions of that. Not a suggestion for this character, caveat, but what if the armor lost some of the angular character paneling around and was simpler and rounder? Would that help with the areas of rest and detail? Yes, it would. Quick example, again, simplifying an area like this and just saying, this is the piece, right, would be quickly fix that problem. That is part of why I've actually made some of the areas darker and begin to blend them in with the sword out too. So areas of rest, areas of detail. Also trying to group them by color so that you see, especially at a distance, you're going to see darker. You're not going to see all the detail at a distance, but you do see the color blocks. So that's kind of what I'm playing with here. And I do think a lot of this will be simplified over time. Okay. Get closer to the design, but I kind of like some of these bits that are, because somebody pointed out that there is a sort of fantasy element already here with some of this, that the more fantasy analog aspects of part of the costume that can come on can add those areas of rest or add a different texture that this wouldn't necessarily add. And so that's kind of my thought was, I kind of, even though it is a little distracting and maybe not the best from a design sense, I'm exploring and playing with the idea of that underlayer being a very different feeling, and that's part of how I'm trying to convey that is by having like a lot of detail or a more specific or concentrated amounts of detail in everything. So it's kind of the idea. I'm not sure if it's working. I don't know if it will work for the final product. I don't even, we'll see. But yes, to answer your question, Dodruko from Twitch, that would be a good way to fix the problem. Now, I inflated all this. I was saying this earlier. I inflated all this so that the geometry is actually kind of sucked together and it's kind of gross looking actually. But it created some really interesting lines I quite like. that I'm not going to fix. Embrace the happy accident. Like this separation here is really intense. I like how it looks. All right. Had to get to the mute button fast enough so I could sneeze. If there's anybody who has questions, by the way, please feel free to ask them. I'd be happy to answer. I know that I'm just kind of picking away at this thing, and it's maybe not the most exciting element to watch, but if there are questions on the process or things you'd like me to demo or things you'd like me to help out or answer, I'm happy to do so. For a game or CGI, it's just for a personal project. I would probably say it's more for just a personal story. Anything, I think it's more likely to come out as an illustration or to come out as a 3D print. Looking forward to Foundation on Apple TV. Yeah, absolutely. Foundation's great. The lines make the armor look damaged or engraved in some way. Yeah, that was kind of my idea as well, was maybe this like very high level of detail doesn't feel like it belongs in this world. So maybe along with that reluctant hero, anti-hero conversation we were having earlier, maybe that's part of this character's story, is maybe they're not from where they are. Maybe they are from where they are, but they've been there a lot longer than anyone else. I'll go ahead and save. See the before. See the before, and then we'll see the after of this area. So you can see I've added quite a bit of detail, design lines, refinement. And this is actually, once you get into it, I was saying earlier, it's not my favorite part, but once you do get into it, it is actually pretty fun. And you can really start to see the improvement there. Still looking for names. There was a couple names that came over that I thought were cool. This one was an interesting name. Somebody said that one. I liked this idea quite a bit. Can't hear his voice since it's low hertz. Like that. There's always this. Yeah, still looking for names as well. I'm going to take my headphones off for just a minute, and I'm going to mute just to give my ears a break, because over time wearing the headphones for a couple hours smashes my ears and it hurts quite a bit. So I will not be chatting for the next couple minutes, but I will still, if we got questions or names, let's queue them up and I'll answer them as soon as I come back with that. I might stop the music though, so I'm just going to put it over here. All right, feeling a little better with my ears now. Sorry for that. Just got to take a little break. So we've got some questions that are queued up, which is awesome. The only question that somebody can think of is how to make realistic feathers in ZBrush for fiber mesh. That's a really good question. I don't have a great answer for you. Fiber mesh is not the best for feathers, but I think you could probably do it. It also depends on if you're trying to do like a bird, for like a wing, or if you're trying to do something like just like coverage on a body. On the body, it'd be okay, I think. But on like a wing, there's a very specific ways that the feathers are laid out, and what the different groupings of the feathers is. So it wouldn't be. I don't see it being good for that aspect of it. If that was your part of your question. Yes. Oh, the name idea of Zrax. How do you say this name? I don't know phonetically how you'd say that name, but that's an interesting name. Definitely a cool one. Like that. Somebody says, do you need to know coding to be a rigger? Yes, is the short answer. By definition, rigging is a more technical skill set, and often that skill is also tied into tools, and it's also tied into a bunch of other things as well. So tools and maybe pipeline improvements and stuff like that. So while you don't maybe you don't have to know coding how to be just to do rigging, but to do the position that a rigger will need to do, you'll need to have a decent understanding of coding. One brutal character just joined the stream, by the way, and thank you. Thanks for joining Wicked Motion. Do I normally just start with a Dyna Wax? I'll start with a Dyna Wax. I'll start with a sphere. This one, I believe, I started with a base mesh. I'll show you the base mesh that I started with. It was basically this character in a different proportions, obviously, but basically a humanoid base mesh with blocks for fingers, blocks for toes, no real definition in that standpoint. I think I can probably just open it up for you as well. So just open up like this. So we have something to import over. I'll import. I'll grab one of my meshes really quickly here to show you what I got. It probably looks like this. So this is what my base mesh started with, was just this character. And so going from this to this. Well, this is what it started with. This is what it ended with. Proportionally, this one on the left would have no details. So I ended up sculpting over time sort of a buff anatomy body there, and then adding another head, and so on and so forth. And then this is the upgraded version of what we've been doing today. So you can see before and after. I'll turn the color off on this so you can see it a little better. Maybe. There we go. Just adding more details to that. Finalizing some of what this could potentially be. And then also there's some elements on top in case you're just joining the stream. This is part of what we got going here. I like this little like pelt thing, but I kind of just like this look too. But I also like this look. Really go a couple ways. I like the layers though personally, but I do like this one as well. All right, Zrax was your intended pronunciation. Yeah, no problem. Showing you the steps. I really should work on the back at some point. I think the back is probably exactly as it was. Pretty close. Not a lot happening there. A lot more happening on this side. All right, let's figure out these legs. We got about 50 minutes, 50 minutes left in the stream. I'm going to hide this hammer because it's going to be in the way. Where are we going? Is it a supervillain? Good question. We kind of talked about that earlier. I thought it would be an anti-hero, reluctant hero type. I don't know if I like that circle there. I feel like we need another circle in here. Do this again so everybody can kind of see what the direction is currently looking like. Maybe since I'm over here on the stream position. Right there. This music is way too epic right now. I don't know how I'm supposed to compete. 2.5 hours in, I'm starting to crash. I'm gonna hide these hands, I think. No, we're not. I like what I just did here. I'm gonna mirror that on the other side. Or attempt to. Ooh, this is not so epic. I can get down. I would switch to lo-fi beats, but I think lo-fi beats would legitimately put me to sleep right now. So I would actually switch to a different playlist entirely, a non, royalty-free one, but we know what will happen, which means the stream will get muted. Nobody wants that. For now and forever. For barely learning rigging, is Blender good? I think Blender is good if you're interested in learning any subject because it's a free program and there's a good amount of resources out there. So it's great if you want to learn that. If you want to do it in production, if you want to learn how to do it for a big AAA movie right now, Blender's not to talk bad about Blender because I think it's fantastic, but it's not the place that's happening. It's likely you're going to be in Maya or a different software, but likely Maya. But if you want to learn about it, you want to get started in it, Blender's a great choice. So I'm using the same process as before. If there's a line that just doesn't look resolved, it doesn't really make sense, it wobbles, it warps, it doesn't look appealing, I fix it. And that's basically it. I define it, and I fix it, I tie it in with the rest of the design if possible. If it creates a tangent or something like that, I adjust that so there's no tangent. Just kind of do that over and over until it's done, until you've completed the whole pass on the character. Maybe medieval music. I think this is supposed to be the medieval music. I have some that are like, this is fantasy, I think, isn't it? Streaming beats. Oh, here we go. Here's the fantasy one. It's not very loud. Let's turn it up a little bit. Let me know if that's too loud. Oh, these bagpipes. Sounds like bagpipes and an approaching storm. Yeah, this is too sci-fi for this character. But if we give him the whole get up, I still don't know about those boots. Too much brown. All right, chat. We got 45 minutes left. I want to hear what your favorite fantasy movie is now that we're listening to the fantasy list. Favorite fantasy movie? No votes yet. I'm going to put some out there. Lord of the Rings, obvious one. Curious who thinks that's a great one of the best or the best. Straps behind the knees. I don't think that's needed. Just tried it. Doesn't look very good. Lord of the Rings, probably. Alex F1. What is the best Lord of the Rings movie to you? You got like what, 6 to choose from? 7 if you include the original Hobbit. Two Towers. Somebody says Two Towers. Excellent choice. Yeah, 2 votes for Two Towers right now. What's the best part of Two Towers? It says, oh, they really like Dark Crystal. The original Dark Crystal I thought was good, but I'll admit that it always lost me a little bit in the lore. It was really but it's not really a remake. It's more of like a prequel sequel for Netflix. I think you call it like it was like something Dark Awakening, or I don't remember what it was called. I loved that, and it was dark. It was super dark. I really liked it though. I wish they picked it up for a second season. It was clearly ready to be made for a second season. L typed of wait for it. No, the time back internet. Very good. We'll see if it comes back. Gotta hear these questions. Laggy. I apologize. We better fix it. Even though the stream is laggy, it'll be here until 3, so hopefully it comes back up. The fight with Gandalf and the Balrog is pretty amazing. Just watched it a month ago. Fantastic. Big fan. Fine again. Good, 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 good. What are some non-Lord of the Rings favorite fantasy world settings or movies or shows? I really like The Witcher. Like The Witcher, even the show. I liked the show quite a bit actually. I know some people don't like the show, but I really dug the show. Willow. Willow is great. I believe there's a sequel or something of Willow being remade. I guess you probably have to put Harry Potter in fantasy, right? That's kind of what it is. Not like traditional fantasy, but yeah. Somebody says toss up between Harry Potter movies and the Warcraft movie. Ooh, Warcraft movie. We were talking about that last time. I would definitely choose Harry Potter over Warcraft for me. Obviously, I Highlander. Ooh, yeah. Nice choice with Highlander coming in there. Warcraft movie was improvable. Yes, I think it was improvable as well. It was one of the first, if not the first, big box office movie to do more business in China, though, which is interesting. Moon Guardian of the Moon. Interesting. Has some weird, awesome 3D lighting. I have never seen that. I'll have to put that on my list. Sounds cool, though. If you could be one character in a fantasy world, which character would you be? New question. Would you choose the hero who has to go through a bunch of struggle? Or would you choose one of those side characters who's got it a little easy? Liked Highlander too. Highlander is solid. It I think Highlander I feel like I heard something about Highlander getting remade or something like that, but Highlander needs a remake. It needs a new version. The idea is just too solid. Gandalf, you be Gandalf. Samwise didn't have it that easy. That's true. I meant like somebody like Elrond. Granted, Elrond has gone through his own stuff for sure, but in the Lord of the Rings, Elrond has it pretty easy in that whole trilogy. But yeah, Samwise had it pretty rough. Samwise, Frodo, Aragorn. Platted pretty rough. When you play D&D, you were always a cleric. It seems the type for you. Power to cast an earthquake and so on. Clerics are overpowered. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Spoiler alert. Clerics are super overpowered. I'm running a campaign right now, and there's a cleric in there. And as a DM, Spirit Guardians is the worst spell. I hate when that spell comes up. You just have massive AoE. Cool. Cool. I like this fantasy playlist. You really like The Witcher? Looking forward to playing Elder Scrolls? Yeah. Elder Scrolls are great. Skyrim's the classic that most people have probably played now. It's also been ported the most, I think. It's on like everything. You'd be a dwarf holding a grudge against some poor elf. That sounds like Gimli. What's the process after this? Dynamesh, then retopo? Do you cut the model up into parts? Yeah, I think that I would probably cut this into parts and then start assembling it, polishing those individual pieces. Right now I'm just kind of trying to finish what the design is. So you can actually see here on the leg over here, I'm starting to define exactly what these things are. Right now it's getting a little too like Grecian sandally. So I might find ways for this to like dive back in, how I liked how some of this was actually kind of hidden. Something like this. But yeah, right now I'm kind of trying to figure out what exactly this design is going to be like on the legs. What's on top, what the materials are, what the colors are, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, more like John Rhys Davies than the Hobbit ones, yes. I wish there was more songs in The Hobbit. That was something I wish that they would have incorporated more, was the songs. They did like that, especially the first one, the cleaning, and then I think they do the Misty Mountains. It's the same. Ooh, you'd be a nice dragon, a nice one helping people out. Nice. A metallic dragon, I think is what that is, right? Or is that chromatic? What's the good ones? Chromatic or metallic? All right, we have 30 minutes left in the stream. We're going to end at 5 p.m. Pacific. So if there's any questions, processes, questions about Gnomon, let me know. Happy to answer. In case you don't know, because I haven't done this, and reset the stream for new people who haven't been watching in a while. My name's Josh Herman. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at Gnomon. I'm also an artist. I've worked in the industry for a decade or so. I worked on a bunch of Marvel movies, MCU movies, Iron Man, Hulk, Ultron, Spider-Man, Star-Lord, Vision, etc. So lots of different characters, Groot. So if you have questions about any specific characters or specific things that you're interested in about concept art, 3D art, modeling, anything like that, I'm happy to answer those questions if you've got them. And welcome to the stream. These leg pieces are probably way too complicated. Like the way that I'm trying to tie this into this is not very functional, like at all. So now I guess I need to figure out what I'm really doing here. Because I know that I like this little thing that I do with the hands and the feet, where it's like a little, almost a wrap. I'll have to figure out exactly what that is, but figure out in a minute. Was I always specialized, or did I begin as a generalist? I'm a Gnomon alumni, so I graduated in 2009, started working in 2010, and that program that I went through is the same one that exists now in the 2-year program, and that's a generalist program. So at the time when I graduated, there was not a modeling track or anything like that like we have now. So I went through the generalist program, and so I started off kind of as a generalist, or learned generalist skills, but I did know that I wanted to be a modeler, specifically, if possible, focusing on characters. And so I knew that I wanted to focus on characters in school, and that made that kind of my primary focus the whole time. So have generalist skills, but specialized. Did I block out Iron Man and ZBrush? Did I block out Ultron and ZBrush? No, actually I did not. Only for 1 or 2 of the later Iron Man suits that I did I block out in ZBrush. Those characters, more Iron Man, more so than Ultron, actually. A specific set of proportions that can't really be changed from one movie to the next movie, or at least not wildly. So because I knew where the joints would be, meaning the elbows, the wrists, the shoulders, the whole song, if you want to play it, I didn't need to search too much on those characters for what their proportions would be, which when I'm doing hard surface, full hard surface characters that need to have decent topology and stuff like that, I didn't find, especially at the time, ZBrush to be as helpful, because it was really just about making the correct shapes. So no, get that question a lot though. Most people are shocked. They think that I would have done a lot of work in ZBrush to make those characters, but I didn't. It's all traditional poly modeling. Near the end of the process, some of the other concept artists started using 3D, and so I might get a ZBrush sculpt as a starting point. But most of the time, just modeling it from scratch, or eyeballing it based off of the concept. hide this poncho. Am I going to finish this on my own stream? If so, where can we find it? I do have a stream on Twitch at Droids for Sale, the same thing that you see on Instagram, or my handle on Instagram. You can find me there on Twitch. I don't stream all that often for my own stream. I will probably continue this character on the next several sets of streams. Alex, who unfortunately was not able to make it today because of internet issues, of which you've seen I've been having many, was going to be doing the Unreal Fellowship for the next 5 weeks. So I will be doing solo streams and probably focusing on this character and characters around that, are companions to this character, villains to this character, mounts, things like that. So I'll be focusing on this character probably the next month or so. So you can come back and check it out here. ZBrush has improved a lot in that area. The thing that especially then, but there's still certain elements that I see to this with ZBrush now, is just to the nature of how organic and easy it is to make organic shapes in ZBrush. I find that the style of work that you often see from hard surface stuff tends to be a little slightly more on the organic side, especially then. We're talking 5 to 7 years ago at that point, depending on the character. Well, not 5. It would have been 5 to 10 years ago when I worked on many of those characters. So it just really kind of depends. But yeah, back then there was a very specific style in ZBrush's hard surface that was kind of organic and very natural, organic shapes that flowed into each other really well. A lot kind of like what I'm doing now. Let's go ahead and save. Save. You have a question. Art Wrist from Twitch asks, you have a question about which computer you should buy if you were to work remotely in production using Maya, ZBrush, and Substance Painter. If you aren't going crazy high in the polygon count, texture sizes, amount of stuff in your scene, honestly, you can buy an off-the-shelf gaming computer. Get a good video card. ZBrush doesn't use the video card. Most people are kind of shocked by that or don't know that, but it doesn't really use the video card except for 1 or 2 pieces of the software, which are not crazy highly used, by the way. So the video card is going to be more for rendering, lighting, and just generally being in Maya or Substance Painter. So get a nice gaming card, get an off-the-shelf gaming PC, and I think it'll do most of what you want it to do, and you should be fine. The Quadro cards are just not worth your money anymore, in my opinion. Go with a GeForce card. Go with the fastest you can afford. I know many people, myself included, who I just had upgraded my workstation before COVID. It ended up crashing. I bought an Alienware just from Best Buy. It's been fine. You can go nuts and create a custom machine if you have specific needs or whatever you're really looking for, but it's not really needed most of the time. Yeah, somebody says remember to buy NVIDIA if you're going to run Maya. Yes, I agree. You can do it in other ways, but there are issues that tend to pop up. It's smarter to buy an NVIDIA card. or processor. I don't think hardware is as much of a limiting factor as most people would expect it to be. A lot of people think you have to do crazy stuff like this to do what I'm doing now. I can tell you for a fact, I have a M1 MacBook Pro, the cheapest version you can get, and I can guarantee you I can run what I have up right now on that MacBook. So don't worry about, crazy expensive machines. That's a $1,300 laptop, which is a somewhat expensive laptop, but it's also completely off the shelf. So don't let the hardware be a big concern for you if possible. I don't love those legs. I don't love the design on that. I'm going to need to spend a lot more time cleaning this up and getting it closer to what I want. Right now, to be honest, I'm just not wanting to keep sculpting these little ropes. This part I still don't love. This part on the legs, there's an element about it that I do like. There's a lot of parts about it that I don't like. I think I'm missing some large forms throughout this. So if I kind of turn all this color off, I have some large forms like this, but what I mean is like the larger plane changes, kind of like this. This is a large plane change. I don't have a lot of that going on. The back still needs a significant amount of work. But to show you before and afters, we'll leave this on. Select this. Get this hammer out of here because it's not going to help anything. You can kind of see the level of detail that I was able to get, or at least achieve today. Still have 30 minutes left, so I'm going to keep working, but from here to here, as far as cleaning up and adding extra fidelity to the design. Kind of slowly working the model through this process is what helped quite a bit. What if you were working with 40, 50 UDIMs in Substance Painter? That's a lot of UDIMs. So I don't actually know the answer to I don't know the answer to that. If you're doing, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're doing stuff that's a lot, like 40 to 50 feels like a lot of UDIMs. Then you might need a more specialized machine. But if you're just a beginner, you want to get into Blender, you want to get into ZBrush, you want to get into Unreal, you want to get into Maya, you want to get into Houdini, basic level stuff. Don't worry about that. Just get an off-the-shelf machine. You'll be just fine. Really like the model. Looking forward to the end result. Thank you very much, Alex. Appreciate that. Will I be going over texturing, materials, X-Gen rendering, etc. on later streams? Hangry Tooth asks. I will probably be going over more modeling. I will be going over some texturing, but not a lot. Most of what this will be done with is going to be illustrations of some type and then to 3D printing. So I'll likely be covering more what I would do to make this into an illustration, a keyframe, posing, mood, cinematography, composition, and then prepping for 3D printing, which is a whole separate process. So you can see I have printer here. So I'll be making some prints here in the next month for sure as I progress with this Blender has a really cool community render farm. That's cool. Sheep it if you need to render something big. Yeah, that's awesome. There are a lot of good, bigger render farms for Maya that you can use, whether they're Rebus or other, Chaos if you're using V-Ray. There's good ones there, but you need to pay for them. So similar things exist, but they're definitely not free. Let's just figure out what some of this could be, I guess. His butt is looking a little big. You can see in the chat, or it should be coming through in a second, but tomorrow we'll be having guest JV Pike. He'll be showing us behind the scenes for the creation of an 8-minute long space battle sequence in the Orville, which I believe was set up for an Emmy. I don't know if it won the Emmy, but it was nominated for an Emmy, which is awesome. And he'll be showing the making of that tomorrow. That'll be on our Twitch, our Facebook, or our YouTube page, whatever you're streaming on now. You can see that. And I believe it's tomorrow evening at 7:30. So check that out. You can also like, subscribe, follow any of our channels that you're on right now, and you'll get notifications whenever we go live. You'll also get more notifications for any of the special events that we do. We do Art Jam every single week from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. And then we also have multiple events a month that will show, like the Orville, making of, or panels of behind the scenes or interviews with the artists. We had on May the 4th, we had James Klein, who's an incredible concept artist over at ILM. He gave us a little talk about his experience working on Star Wars, which was a fantastic one. So you can also check any of those out on our YouTube page. So follow, like, subscribe, and get, if you're here and you're hanging out and you're enjoying this, I can tell you that there's a lot more where this comes from. Sometimes even on Art Jam, we'll have guest artists. We've had guest artists in the past: Jay Hill, Jared Kraszewski, Dave Neal, Crystal Bretz, Rodrigo Brea. All of those are people we've had guests this year, as well as Paul Gabery from ZBrush, who we were talking about earlier. And they sometimes show off their tips and tricks for their processes and projects that they're working on. So if you're interested in the X-Gen side, the materials, texturing, rendering, often we will bring on guest artists to show that stuff off. So we had Dave Neal come in and show some of his process for his illustrations as a 2D artist. And we just got to jam and talk with him about, his style of work, what he does, his process, what he looks for. And all that's on YouTube as well, stored there. So if you want to keep watching, you can. There's plenty of stuff to check out. Also, if you ever feel like you missed the stream, these streams are all uploaded afterwards to YouTube. They also are on Twitch, but safer and better playlists to find them on YouTube. Safer meaning sometimes Twitch decides to delete them. So YouTube's the space to go. All right, everybody, we have 10 minutes left. So if there are any last questions, any last names for this character, please throw them in the chat. We'll take a look at them. Questions we had earlier in the stream: what's your favorite fantasy movie? Any thoughts on that? A lot of Lord of the Rings picks. Some Harry Potter picks. Highlander, surprising choice, but valid for sure. The Witcher. Armor on the legs looks connected near the top and the back. How are you planning on correcting this? I assume you're talking about like this part. I might just leave it, or I might just do something like that. Just looks a little crop toppy when you do that. It's also possible to bring in some of this fabric and treat it to keep the same level of like coverage, I guess is the right word. But then it doesn't look like a crop top, and it can be fabric which is flexible. Part of the armor, as well as, you know, sometimes when you look at the inside of armor, it's actually got, you know, thin fabric and padding and all that. These straps aren't necessarily intended to be the padding element. They could be, and some of it definitely would be, but it was more just an interesting design element. So I could see me going into some of these a little bit more and just kind of figuring out like what the actual undersides of these looks like, so it could move, be worn, be comfortable. Saying on the back of the thighs, I assume you're saying like here, that area just hasn't been worked on. So I know that I have this design paint line that I put here, right? So that needs to be created. Commodus, descended from the mighty Komodo dragon. Terrifying creatures in real life. Do you know if they bite you, they have like 10,000 types of bacteria in their mouth or something ridiculous like that? I'm not okay with that. Not something I'm interested in. Figure out what this line is. So I put this paint in here, kind of dictate it. So I can use this. I haven't done it in this way before. But I can just draw the line, basically. So I can do it here as well. Okay, we'll make this shape. We know we want there to be a gray or darker area and a lighter area. Then I'll come back in here and I'll paint, make some adjustments to the paint. Trim that up. Trim this up. Just sort of, for me at least, it helps me separate this into multiple chunks. So now I say, okay, I did want that line there because I liked the breakup of the color, the flow of whatever the shapes were going, whether it's crossing, hourglassing, doing whatever. And now I can kind of work off of this versus something before, which was like this, which is a little less clear. Even though I haven't really spent that much time to fix it, you can see that it gives you an immediate area to adjust. Whereas here it's much more nebulous. And so here I can come in and say, okay, you know, I do like that, or I don't like that, or whatever. So I'm just taking the H polish brush, one of my favorite brushes for creating areas of rest, but also blocking out large, simple planes. especially on things that were sculpted and very wobbly. So just using the alt brush to fill out sections, and then using it normally without alt to carve in little areas. If I find little details like this, which I could, sit here with the alt brush and like try to fill in or make it plain. Often I use this as just like a place to create a shape. Right, so enhance that just by kind of sketching along it, really. And create a nice little detail. If I don't like it, I can always come in and adjust it, but it does give me like a space to do something with. I do need to put some more circles in here, so it could be a circle too. Just because I had kind of already implemented that a couple times. And that one kind of mimics like a C7 vertebrae, which would be in this area, which I kind of like. What music is playing? This is a royalty-free, Twitch-friendly fantasy podcast playlist by Vihiza. 11 hours of royalty-free music, Twitch-friendly, medieval D&D roleplay, tabletop RPG, MMO, Celtic. Just Twitch. You could probably go into Spotify and say royalty-free fantasy, and you'll find it pretty quickly. But I would recommend, actually, if you like this type of music, finding just D&D playlists or fantasy playlists. You can just go into Spotify and type fantasy, and you'll find a whole selection. A lot from video games. Video games like The Witcher, like Dragon Age, all that fun stuff. How long does it take to finish a character for print? Hangrytooth asks. Hangrytooth, that's a hard question to answer. The reason it's a hard question to answer is because it's based on the size of the actual print. What I mean by that is if you have a character, oh God, that is this tall, right? So this is a character that I printed a while ago, right? This is the size of, this is probably 4 inches tall, 3 inches tall, right? Not terribly large. I'm going to put this down and get another one really quick. If you have a character like that, this is just the body for an Iron Man versus this. So you can see the difference in the quality, but also the difference in the size. It takes longer depending on the size of the character that you print. So for a 12-inch figure versus a 4-inch figure, it's going to be different. So on average, you can, and it also depends on the speed and quality and resolution of the printer. The average that I've heard is 1 hour per inch of model. You seem to have a lot of layers from the skin up. What is the maximum you would use? That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that. I don't know if I'd really have a maximum. Generally, ways that I like to think about things, I guess, as I think about this for the first time, maybe is in 1, 2s, and 3s. So that's kind of the traditional line weights method, but using, 1 would be here, 2 would be here, and then 3 would be here. This is all for this, at least part of that costume. That's, like I said, that's a traditional analog method of line weight. It's also order of read. What's the most important things you want people to read, or what's the lowest importance? It gets more complicated when you add in other stuff like this. Now I'm talking 5 levels of detail, of layers, so it's kind of hard to say. Let's get that poncho off. All right, everybody. Thank you. We are out of time, actually, so I'm going to wrap up the stream right here. We'll put our little poncho on. We'll take this sword off and just delete it because we don't need that. So let's wrap this stream up. We'll go ahead and wrap this thing up. And thank you all for joining. My name is Josh Herman again. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm the Chief Creative Officer here at Gnomon, and it's been my pleasure to be doing this today. I've really enjoyed doing these streams, and I'll be doing them every week for at least the next 5 weeks solo. We might have a guest on here and there, but it'll probably just be me. So if you enjoyed this, come back for the next one, and we'll keep doing these. Like I said, we also have a whole reservoir of these in our YouTube channel, so feel free to go through and pick at those and enjoy them and check them out. We're going to probably keep working on this character here for the next several weeks, getting them ready, getting them some poses, maybe making some companions, some mounts, etc. And we should have some fun with it. So come back, watch the stream, hang out, ask questions, use me as an accountability partner to do whatever you're doing, and I'll be here. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you this time next week.